That's right, we're starting early. Ha! It's because, we can.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey everybody, this is the Jimmy Doane Show. I am Counselor Curtis. We do this live twice a week, 4 o'clock Wednesdays and Sundays. I bet you that's Gene. Oh, hey, Uncle John. Good to see you. Join us, and we'll also do, I'll post an audio copy of this, not on iTunes, because iTunes is gone.
Oh, is that right?
It is out of there. Apple is shutting it down.
Today?
Right, yeah, pretty much. And apparently everybody's moved over to Spotify.
Okay.
So we're on Spotify. So, and I'll have
Well,
times.
didn't they expand their iTunes into something else?
I don't know. They had Apple Music and.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I don't know. It's going to be an app now, but it's just different, I guess.
Yeah.
I never really use it a lot, but anyway. We're also up on YouTube. Timestamp copy of this right away, an hour or two after the show. And so you can join us there. Today is the 9th of June, 2019. And Jimmy Doane is here live. What's going on?
Lots of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah?
Lots of things. Big.
Do tell.
Do tell. Well, I got a couple things, and they are today. Some of them are actually in order.
Oh,
So we've actually looked out here. But to start off with, I thought the first thing that I got a hold of was Ilhan Omar plans to join Black Jewish Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm kind of wondering the reason for this is more this intersectionality, it seems to me.
Sure.
You have black, and then you have the Jewish, and you have the the different ones. So now they're going to have a special group in Congress, in the House, called the Black Jewish Caucus.
Yeah.
It was announced on Monday at the annual convention of the American Jewish Committee.
Okay.
The African American and Jewish communities have a history of standing together for the promotion of social justice and civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
So there are very few segments in America that have invested themselves in these struggles as much as these two communities. The new caucus, which was designed in part to combine resources to fight the shared threat of white nationalism, attracted some criticism on the Jewish left, as well as Women's March leader Linda Sarsour, which is kind of interesting. You know, she's a real rabble-rouser because it turns out that some of these people have had fundraisers with people that are not, approved by this new Black Jewish Caucus, and so they're all, kind of bent out of shape about that. Mm-hmm. But what attracted me on this was the fact that in order to fund a group, it's an exclusionary group, of course. If you're not black or Jewish,
by skin color.
Yeah, right. Well,
maybe, I don't know. They probably let whoever you want join, right, or no?
I suppose you could, but you'd be. I'm not sure.
You're a white Catholic guy.
Yeah, if you're a white Catholic. I'm not sure you'd want to be in the Black Jewish Caucus.
So, my thought is
what?
From my perspective, as a free adult American, you can associate with any group you want to for any purpose you want to. That's lawful, okay? And if you want to associate with a group of people because you all like Star Wars, or you're all associated with the same religion, or you just happen to look the same, go for it. Personally, I don't think that's a good metric. I wouldn't pick out a whole bunch of people that just look like me and be like, okay, now we're a group.
Yeah.
No, because obviously
not only doppelgangers, but triple gangers and quadruple gangers. And
dongers,
whatever.
No. So it's interesting to me that in today's age of acceptance, that people are still forming groups based on characteristics that are clearly not. It's just a random thing, like, oh, well, you look like me, so obviously we've suffered the same, or not even this. Jewish and black,
right? Well, what is kind of interesting when you talk about that? Mm-hmm. When I first joined Rotary, for instance, women were not allowed. They had to sue to get in, basically, and the Supreme Court somehow ruled that this was a kind of a club that was. You couldn't do that exclusionary thing because it was people. These are all businessmen,
right,
and so forth. Whatever it was, but now we have the here in town. Of course, they have the women's voting clique or whatever it is. Women's I forget what they call them, but a bunch of women who basically announce their particular candidacies and so forth, and their views on candidates and things that are going to be on the constitutional, on the ballots. Women's voting league or something like. So what I mean, can a guy go in there? I mean, I'm not sure I really want to, unless there were some babes in there. I'd want to check them out first.
That's again, my thought is go ahead, form whoever you want. I mean, personally, I wouldn't join a group just like that for that purpose, but
no, but I mean, it's just, to me, I thought this is kind of interesting that somehow they've decided to mix these two as a cohesive group, and then, but there's some Jewish folks over there that are saying, not me, that kind of thing.
Well, look, they're obviously, any group has conflicts. It'll be interesting to see if they conflict with either the Black Congressional Caucus or the Jewish Congressional Caucus, right?
Yeah. Well, apparently there's an American Jewish Committee,
right?
So apparently that's what it is. I don't know. Speaking of Spotify. Barack and Michelle Obama are going to produce podcasts for Spotify.
Barack,
yeah. Barack Obama and Michelle. And so former U.S. President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle have agreed to produce a series of podcasts for the music streaming platform Spotify. The couple's production company, called Higher Ground, is going to lend. They've had a multi-year partnership. And under the deal, they will develop, produce, and lend their voices to podcasts distributed worldwide. Well, of course, Spotify is worldwide, but we do that too.
Distributed worldwide.
We distribute. The Jimmy Doane Show is distributed worldwide as well. So we're ahead of them. And they launched Higher Ground in 2018 with a deal to produce Netflix films, documentaries, and series. A joint statement announcing the latest venture said the move into podcasts would allow them to, quote, expand the conversation. Knock
yourself out.
Well,
Come on back.
It's already pretty well expanded. I mean, you see what's on there now, other than the big 3 or 4, shutting people down on their platforms. It's pretty well expanded.
Yeah, you pretty much anything you want.
So
Flat Earth, we got that, no problem.
Yeah, right, exactly. Got that. So anyway, the announcement on Thursday followed reports that another political group is going into media production. Sources told U.S. media outlets last week that former Democratic presidential Hillary Clinton and her daughter Chelsea, 2 women, guess Bill's going to be shut up, are in talks to form a film and TV production company that will focus on creating content about women. Well, we already have that. It's called YouPorn. that already does it. So, and there's going to be a follow-up here in a minute on that particular item. Right. First of all, though, I wanted to ask you a legal question here.
Sure.
A Utah man accused of threatening to kill members of Congress. He's arrested. Utah man making threatening phone calls, various ones, and he's charging documents unsealed Wednesday show that federal prosecutors accused this fellow of making more than 2,000 calls to Washington offices of unnamed U.S. representatives and senators from 2017 to 2019. 2,000 phone calls.
Yeah.
Okay. His court. He was arrested in Utah, about 20 near Salt Lake City. He's charged with interstate transmission of threats to injure. Right. A judge has ordered him to remain jailed pending the outcome of the case. Now, my question is this: 2,000 phone calls. Okay.
Right.
Give me a break. I mean, I understand 1 or 2, and the guy's gotten in a car with his diapers,
right, and driven cross country.
I can understand there's a threat there, okay,
right.
But 2,000 phone calls over 2 years. We know who he is. We know where he is. So we've charged with interstate.
Oh, you're saying if you made 2,000 phone calls, you can't possibly be a threat because he would have done something by now.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Okay. Well, let me explain this. This is an outlier situation.
Okay.
Okay. What you've got here is a situation where the people in Congress don't know how to deal with the guy. They're like, we just keep getting phone calls from him. What do we do? So at some point, law enforcement steps in and does something like this. This is just a Band-Aid measure. This is just a make an example out of this guy. Shut the hell up. Don't call us 2,000 times. You can call 10 times if you want. You can call 50 times if you want. Don't call 2,000 times, or we're going to come arrest you. And that's what they do. I defended a guy in a similar situation like this.
Really?
Yeah. He was calling Florida Department of Law Enforcement to get them to take some action. Basically, he wanted them to intervene in his custody case.
I see.
And from his perspective, what his ex-wife had done was kidnapping. She had taken the child and all but. And he was like, he couldn't get law enforcement to do anything about it. He kept calling his local police, sheriff, they wouldn't do anything, state attorney, they wouldn't do anything. So he called Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And what they do? They arrested him. They arrested him because of the way that he phrased his complaint, which was, he said, how come you guys won't do anything? If I threatened the governor's office, if I threatened to blow up the governor's office, you'd certainly come and arrest me. And they said, hold on. and then
hold that thought.
Exactly.
Bob,
could you get over there and arrest him, please? And then they did. And basically it comes down to, they don't know how to deal with that stuff. They don't want to deal with it. They just shut you down. They left that guy in jail for a year, and then they gave him basically a time-served plea offer.
Really?
Yeah.
A year?
Yeah.
And so this guy's
and same thing for this guy.
The judge has ordered him to remain jailed,
right,
pending the outcome of the case.
Right, and he'll sit there for a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So shouldn't have called. I tell people all the time, don't call the cops unless you want to go to jail.
Well, yeah, he wasn't calling the cops.
Well, he was calling the officials.
That's right.
He was calling the man.
That's right.
He was poking the tar baby.
Yeah. Okay.
And you do that enough times, you're going to get stuck. So.
Okay. Well, I think it's. Okay, I guess.
I mean, it's just.
You know, like you say, I don't understand why. Of course, they didn't block his call. You know, like on my phone, you know, you can. I have like 100 numbers that are blocked.
Well, and maybe some of the agencies did. It said he called a bunch of times over the.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they kept calling from payphones or something.
Burner phones.
on another court item, Washington State. This I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The Washington State Supreme Court rules against the florist.
Yeah. In
the same-sex wedding case.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is a state Supreme Court 9-zip.
Wow.
9-zip. It's the latest in the national fight over religious freedom and anti-discrimination laws, coming 1 year after the U.S. Supreme Court sided with a Colorado baker who declined to make a cake for same-sex couple. The state of Washington bars discrimination in public accommodations on the basis of sexual orientation. Discrimination based on same-sex marriage constitutes discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, the 9-member court said in a unanimous decision.
Right.
The Washington case involves Arlene's Flowers and the florist who refused in 2013 to make a floral arrangement for a longtime client, same-sex wedding. She cannot create a custom floral arrangement that celebrates events or express messages as with my faith. That's what the deal was. Well, apparently, guess what? The 9 members of the Washington State Supreme Court said you have to do it.
For now, we'll see if that doesn't get reversed at the top level.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me in several levels. One, did you notice it said, of course, that the customer was a long-time customer? Okay, so obviously she had no problem serving this gay guy.
Or maybe it's women.
Or women, yeah.
Right.
She had no problem serving the person.
Individually, right.
Right.
But now that you wanted to get joint marriage...
For that particular purpose is what she didn't want to write the arrangement for.
Right.
So it seems very clearly directed at the religious expression as opposed to just flowers in general.
Right.
My second thing is that they couldn't find another gay florist. They couldn't find a florist.
Another florist.
Another florist that was gay is what I mean. Like they couldn't find one that absolutely wanted to celebrate this. I mean, the florists.
I say, wait a minute.
They're florists. It's like it got to be 50%. You know, I mean, you can't. And why they would sue and try to force this person to participate? To me, it just makes it seem like another potential political case. Like somebody must have set this up.
What kind of friend is that? Longtime client. You know, what kind of friend are you suing me for something like this?
Well, exactly. And of course, you know, it seems hard for me to believe that this is a genuine attack from the
Well, I'm thinking
customer.
You could be buddies with somebody. Let's say you owned a gun shop, and you're pals with somebody, been childhood friend, or everything, and the guy walks in there and starts to buy, you know, maybe an assault rifle or something, and you say, "I'm not selling it to you." You know the guy. he tends to be a little iffy or something. So you say, I'm not going to sell it to you. And it seems to me there's a parallel here. And just because they were friends, long-time client, doesn't mean anything. But once you overstep the bounds, that's something that I won't do for you.
I'm not sure about that analogy, but I agree with your conclusion, which is, to me, it's obvious that Flores didn't have any problem with this customer.
Right.
Just this particular assignment she didn't like.
Right.
And to me, it's interesting that the customer did not simply try to find what should be a very easy find in finding a florist who would
go
be
next
happy.
door to
Any of them, and so
sachet on next door.
This seems to be like a reaction to the masterpiece case, masterpiece cake case that we covered. That's so we'll see where it lands, where it pans out. So.
Yeah, I guess still money involved.
I mean, from my perspective, you live and die with your customers. So if you don't want to serve a particular group, good luck with that business.
Well, yeah, that's right. Moving on, in New York City. 46 ice cream trucks seized for allegedly dodging millions in fines. And I thought this was kind of interesting. They serve up summer sweet treats, but the owners of some ice cream trucks allegedly had a scam going, according to New York's authorities. On Wednesday, officials announced the results of Operation Meltdown. I thought that was cute. In which 46 ice cream trucks in the city were targeted and impounded for allegedly taking part in a larger scam that included 90 trucks, dodging a total of $4.5 million in fines since 2009. Okay,
how do they
10 years. Well, I'll tell you, I'm getting to that. Mm-hmm. Each of the 46 trucks were confiscated Wednesday that owe at least $10,000 over 10 years, in parking fines or traffic tickets. Well, one of the ways I guess they do is because I'm guessing these trucks are not the Good Humor Man where they dingle down the street.
Okay.
They're the trucks that sell the big 10 gallons, 5 gallons,
and deliver them to the store.
Deliver them to the stores. And the way you do it is you run into the store, you park in a no parking zone or whatever it is, and you get a ticket. And and they screw it.
But how do you renew your tag?
Well, here's what you do. You dissolve that company. You go bankrupt or whatever you call it. You just say, well, we sold our company to Billy's ice cream to Williams ice cream.
That's right.
And it's a whole new company.
That's right. We bought all the trucks.
Bought all the trucks and everything.
That's right.
That was it. And so apparently that's the way they've been skirting it.
Wow.
Is that they just closed down the company.
That's pretty clever.
And open up the next day a new company. And so they
got away with it for
10 years.
Jesus.
Okay. So finally, I guess what's interesting is when you think about it, this is a peanutty little amount of money when you come right down to it.
Right.
I mean, it's $1,000 a year per truck. Okay.
Okay.
And this is over 10 years they got away with it. Mm-hmm. It's just funny to me. And in the overall budget of New York City, which has got to be $1 billion or something.
Right.
I'm just sitting there thinking. So anyway, they confiscated it. Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I wonder if it's full of ice cream. You confiscate it, and you go down to the precinct, and you say, "Come on in, boys. We're having a big party. We can't let this stuff melt." And even though it was Operation Meltdown, we're going to have a party, going to eat ice cream until this stuff all goes away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gosh, I don't know what happened to the evidence. It was the trucks, anyways.
Right.
I thought that was interesting also that NASA is finally doing something sort of right. Mm-hmm. And they're going to open the space station to commercial business and more private astronauts. Oh, thank you so much. There I am once again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There I can get up here a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Today, this is yesterday, the day before, NASA executives announced that the space agency will open up parts of the ISS, the International Space Station, to more commercial opportunities, allowing companies unprecedented use of the space station's facilities, including filming commercials or movies against the backdrop of space. Of course, they already did that with. Well, they didn't do it.
Like you would take a production crew into space. Come on, man. We've been simulating this stuff on Earth for like.
I mean, look at Apollo 13 for God's sakes.
Right.
I mean, now they did film some of that in the Vomit Comet.
Sure.
To have the
the weightlessness.
Yeah,
but
the weightlessness stuff. But still, yeah.
What? Like you're going to take a crew up into space to get a shot
for a commercial.
Right.
Yeah. Well. and you could, and for, well, when you found out how much it costs, you could say, I could build 10 sets for that.
Seriously?
Yeah. So anyway, whatever. It gets back to our space. It's calling on the private space industry to send in ideas for habitats and modules that can be attached. Now, what they're going to have apparently is they're going to have some kind of a universal port, and if you send your own module up there, you can dock it and so forth. Using the space station will come with some restrictions.
Sorry, sure.
Yeah. Okay. They're allocating 5% of its resources on the station for these commercial activities, and only 175 kilograms per year, which is 350 pounds or something, 400 pounds roughly, of commercial cargo can be sent to the ISS. And the NASA crew will only dedicate 90 hours a year to commercial activities. They've released a list of approved commercial activities that the agency will allow on board. And that'd be kind of interesting, because if it's not on the list, you can't do it, kind of thing. So no porn.
Yeah, I was just gonna say space porn. I mean, that would be something that nobody else has. But this kind of seems like NASA grasping for some sort of commercial relevancy or something.
Well, maybe, but
in the face of SpaceX and Blue Origin launching rockets at 1/10 the cost.
Well, what they're going to do, what they're saying, of course, is that the people, how they're going to get there is on one of the Blue Origin things.
Right. Okay.
One of the private guys. That's how they're going to get there. So, but they're going to still be some costs up there. And I'll detail
one space station, slightly used.
Right, exactly. Private astronaut missions to the ISS, they're limited to 2 flights a year, and they'll only be able to stay for 30 days. Right now, the only viable option for crew getting to the ISS is developed by SpaceX and Boeing's commercial crew program or whatever. Additionally, using the space station facilities will be rather expensive. It'll cost over $11,000 per astronaut per day to use the life support systems and toilet, and almost $23,000 a day for all necessary crew supplies like food, air, and medical supplies and more. Even power will cost. Now we're complaining about our power here in Gainesville because it's a couple of dollars a kilowatt hour, whatever it is, $42 per kilowatt hour. And ultimately, one night stay would be about $35,000 per one person. Some companies might want to do even bigger and send their own module to the space station. If they do, NASA has made sure that they will have an available docking port. Now, the reason this caught my eye is because we had the internet, the actual internet, a long time, and it was basically very lightly used between universities and so forth. Until it was opened up to commercial in '94. Basically, they said, okay, well, now it's, well, guess what happened? I mean, untold billions have been made in the last, 94, in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And so once you have opened this up to something like this, and you allow people with an actual imagination to come up with some idea, you can bet that there are going to be people that are going to say, as far as I'm concerned, it's worth, $1 million to send something up there, whatever it might be. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that they will. I don't know how much usefulness,
No, you don't know, and I don't know.
Right.
But nobody saw stuff on the internet. I remember some of the early things. Some of the early things, for instance, how people made money. I'll never forget this one guy. There's a lot of stuff you can do it one at a time. The guy, what he did is he bought up on his website. He had I think 1 million pixels. And you could rent a pixel or buy a pixel for like $4 or something.
Yeah.
Well, there's 1 million of them. And so what was happening was that, Coca-Cola or somebody would buy up 50 of them and put their logo up there or whatever. But I mean, and it was sold out like in a year. Guy made $1 million.
Right.
So
well, that was a totally novel.
I know, totally. That's what I'm saying. Who would have thunk it? One guy.
Right.
But I mean, and a lot of the stuff now, and I don't know how many people, but when you see how stuff is being monetized. What goes viral on the internet these days and has 10 million views, it's stuff like you wouldn't believe it. I mean, what the hell is it talking? So anyway, my point being that
there may be unforeseen uses.
I'll guarantee you there are unforeseen uses. Yeah, no question in my mind. So that's what I'm thinking is that this is good news, and it is kind of interesting because now that the commercial people are getting into it, you're seeing now already there's people complaining because they sent up the CubeSats. And then who's the guy that launched 90 satellites at the one time? They're trying to do the new ground, GPS people are going to scatter those all over the place. the astronomers are complaining bitterly because now when they point their telescopes up there, they're getting reflected light off of the jillions of satellites that are up there, even the little tiny ones. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's outer space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I didn't realize this. This is something you know about. It's trouble in Yollywood.
Yeah, Yollywood.
Yollywood. I think that's hysterical.
It's great.
What a name, Yollywood.
Yollywood.
It's in Georgia, and what happened is the state is rattled by the new abortion law.
Yeah.
Georgia's entertainment industry didn't see it coming. The ban wasn't expected to clear the legislature, and barely did. Even Brian Kemp, the Republican governor, said, "Well, I guess I'll have to sign." He put together another one. And so anyway, suddenly now that this law is in effect, the heartbeat law, whatever it is, 6 weeks. Now Netflix, Disney, Warner Media, AMC Networks, NBC, Universal, and CBS and Showtime subsidiaries have all threatened to pull their business from Georgia, which bills itself as Yollywood. And fear is ripping through the state's film production industry, now bigger than California's. I did not know that. You told me that.
I knew it was large. I didn't know it was that.
Says,
10 billion.
Bigger than California's, according to Film LA, whatever that is.
Yeah, I bet you that it's probably more square footage than.
Okay, well, last year a record 455 film and television productions generated an estimated economic impact of $9.5 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's the number of film thingies, 455.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. And like you say, the square footage, maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
The film and TV industry is responsible for more than 92,000 jobs and nearly $4.5 billion in total wages, including indirect jobs and so forth, according to the MPAA. So, but I think that it's interesting. I don't think they're going to pull out myself. I mean, I think I don't think that abortion thing is going to bother them.
I'm with you. This to me sounds like the threat to move to Canada prior to the election.
Right.
Because there's too much invested, and the momentum in Georgia is incredible.
Yeah.
As I told you, I went to a studio that had an entire hospital built inside a warehouse complete with working elevators.
Am I still in space?
Oh, sorry.
I'm talking to you from the moon. Excuse me.
They had, and then I went to another studio that was 20 times that size, and there was another one they were building next to that was as big as the 20 times size one. And I've heard of other ones, Tyler Perry's studio and Clint Eastwood's, and so there's a lot of potential. And $10 billion, you're not just going to shut down $10 billion based on calling a bunch of your friends up and saying, hey, let's boycott.
Yeah.
$10 billion.
Yeah, yeah.
And the discount rate from Georgia to Hollywood is like 30% off of your taxes.
Yeah. Who's going to throw that money away?
You're not going to throw away 30% on the.
No.
I mean, just no. It's like making an extra 10% on your entire film.
Yeah.
And at $1 billion, that's $100 million.
Right.
So I don't see how they're going to shut down. And then the other thing is that the pressure that they're putting on, who are they putting pressure on?
Yeah.
The other liberals in Yollywood.
Yeah.
The liberals in Georgia. They're putting pressure on the film industry, whose people are with them. Why would you do that? That's not going to help you. What you want to do is empower them, put more of them in there, and have them vote somebody else in office and reverse the ruling. You don't back off. But so we'll see how it goes. So,
yeah, we will. It'll be.
I hope it either survives or they push it down here.
Yeah, well, that would be. That's why our new governor should.
That's it. Take up the mantle.
That's right. And just all they. What is it? A 4-hour drive?
Yeah.
So.
Come on down.
Well, don't come to Gainesville.
Why not?
Maybe.
Well, they'd go to Orlando, but they've already tried it. And there's too much. The weather here. Look, it's raining right now.
Yeah.
You can't get around that. I guess sound studios you can get around it somewhat, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Sound studios, because I say it's beastly hot down here for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, beastly.
Well, Georgia's no picnic.
No, I know.
It's got weather. So.
Got weather up there, and got climate change and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, now moving on to the forthcoming election thing. The Democratic candidates swarm Iowa for the biggest face-off to date. As campaigning accelerates, this is amazing to me. It's a year and a half before the election, okay, and they're 19 of the 23 Democrats actively running to challenge the president in the biggest assembly of 2020 to date. The marquee event is the Iowa Democratic Party of Fame dinner on Sunday today, where they'll be making 5-minute pitches to influential local party officials. Miss Joe Biden won't be there, and he's going to campaign on Tuesday, I guess. The dinner will let each candidate showcase the support and infrastructure they've built in Iowa, where caucuses in February next year launched the months-long 50-state series of contests leading to the party's nomination. Since the beginning of the year, hopefuls have collectively visited Iowa 200 times. The next big milestone will be South Carolina, which is like next weekend. No, 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, and when 20 candidates, including Biden, will appear, and in Miami the week after that, 26 and 27.
And then we got the debates on the 26th or something?
Yeah, the debates are right. I thought it was the 23rd.
Okay.
So I don't know, whatever. Yeah. So it's anyway. They're running like crazy. I mean, these guys. I guess it's kind of a boon for the hotel industry because they're
all their staff.
Yeah, exactly. Next item I have here, just a little
thoughts on that. Just a whole bunch of people in. Hmm?
Yeah, I mean, well, my thoughts are these guys are running hard. They have to, and we're going to talk. I have another little follow-up on this that have to do with the debates, and what actually they're going to do. But the point being that these guys are running hard. I mean, in a field of 23, have yourself stand out is going to be kind of a trip, I think. Now.
Yeah,
I mean, they get 5 minutes,
right?
You know, to stand up there and say,
yeah.
"Here's what I've done and what I'm going to do for you." And by the way, I love corn.
Right. Yeah.
So and
by the way,
corn is my favorite food.
I love Iowa.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and I'm with you. I don't know how. I mean, it's 5 minutes. That doesn't give you much time at all.
I mean, you know, your eyes just glaze over. I mean, I remember one time. Speaking of eyes glazing over, I remember one time I went to a wine tasting. Mm-hmm. And there was like 50 wines there, okay? Of course, you just take the little tiny bit. Well, after about 5 of them, I'm going, okay. You know, and even after you spit it out, for God's sakes, you know, and it just blends all into one thing. And you know they're going to be, among 20 people, do you think there's going to be any crossover?
Well, that's the interesting thing is that
I'm for...
It's, I did a speech one time running for office in school. And they gave us all 2 minutes or something, and nobody knew us, and we hadn't done anything because we had just arrived at the school, and so I decided to just do my speech, just repeating my name over and over again, and it was very successful because. What else can you do?
No, right.
It was otherwise. It was just well, I was this and I was that.
Did we make us some stickers for?
Well, no, this was a different one. This was law school.
Oh, okay.
But. The point being that you can't distinguish yourself in that amount of time if you haven't done it already. All they're going to have to do is, I guess they're just going to list off, all right, so the things I'm giving out for free are healthcare, education, and then you state your list, and then I guess that's it. That's your pitch. For the left, that seems to be the issue: is how much stuff.
What you do is, well, I would think that if you're the third or fourth person up there, you just get up there and say what she said.
Right. Well, all their stuff combined, whatever they said, double it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I would do. I would just say whatever they said, man.
Sounded pretty good to me. Him and her, all that.
I'm going to double that. I'm going to give you twice as much.
That's it.
Guaranteed.
I mean, my eyes are.
I won't be outsold.
That's it. I won't be outbought.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see who survives the primary. I think Democrats have a huge problem because I think that their base seems to be so far to the left at this point that they really want people to pitch them socialism and healthcare.
Well, but when they do the polling, Biden is running ahead of everybody.
Well, but I think that's a general poll. I don't think that's a left poll. I don't think that's a Democratic voters poll. I think that's an everybody's voter poll.
No, I'm pretty sure it's for the Democrats.
Well, that would
They're
be
trying to
surprising
figure
to
out,
me.
No, they're trying to figure out who's ahead in the Democrat race.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they can measure it two ways. You can say, well, Biden is ahead in the Democratic race because if he were to go up against Trump in the main election now, this would be his results based on a survey of likely voters from all sides. And you know they can claim that. I think that's where they get it from, because I don't think Biden would poll that well with the Democratic core. I think the Democratic core would go with somebody like Bernie, or
Could be, yeah, or Liz.
yeah,
Bail set at $50 million for the leader of a Mexican megachurch charged with rape and human trafficking. Now I saw this, and I thought, you know, when you think about the megachurches, okay, I mean, you think of, I don't want to, shouldn't probably mention his name with this, but Joel Osteen, who has a huge, I mean, when you see the inside of that church,
that's what mega means.
yeah, I know, and it's like 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 people in there. It's like a stadium. And so anyway, this guy apparently has been doing the mega church business in Mexico, and California's top prosecutor is urging victims of child abuse to come and testify against this guy. But $50 million is the bond.
How can that not be excessive, babe?
Yeah, right.
I mean, if you
$50 million.
Right.
I mean, why don't you just remand? If you're gonna do $50 million,
Right.
you remand. I
Right.
mean, unless the guy's worth over $50 million.
well, that's the interesting thing about it. I mean, presumably he is, and it's like they want him to come up with the $5 million so they can keep it,
Ah, yes.
or something, or
Yeah.
the $50 million.
Well, no, yeah, because no bond guy is going to pony up with that.
With the 50? Yeah, right, exactly.
No, I'm not going to guarantee the 50.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
For $5 million?
Right.
No, I don't think so.
Well, not unless you sign over the Gulf Stream to him and those kinds of things.
And wear 4 ankle bracelets and everything.
Yeah, you stay in this cage. We'll find you out.
You have to wear this GPS thingy. And then we have
Swallow
a
it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, seriously.
No, I tell you, that'd be.
That's
big.
interesting. Well, yeah, I saw one of those mega church guys on a little video clip. I don't know if it was the same guy, but this guy looked like he was on something. He was so, he had crazy eyes going on.
No, they're really hoot.
Well, they're hypnotists. They're charlatans. They're stage performers.
Yeah.
It's the P.T. Barnums of today.
Well, and I've told people this all the time. There's that 1972 movie.
Oh yeah, Margot.
Margot, yeah. And really, that was done by an insider, a kid who was who made millions.
Margot, that's the one, and then the other one is Leap of Faith.
Oh, is that right?
That's the modern one with Steve Martin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's hilarious.
What about the one with Burt Lancaster? Was that?
I don't know.
That was the. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, moving on. Speaking of climate change and all this kind of stuff, Bloomberg, another New Yorker, Bloomberg pledges $500 million to fight climate change. U.S. billionaire Michael Bloomberg has pledged $500,000 on Friday to fight climate change, saying our lives and our children's lives depend on it.
So, pledged to who? What's he going to do with it?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I asked you.
That's right. So the money will go towards closing coal plants. So I don't know how I guess you'd buy them up and close them. And through lobbying state and local governments and utility commissions, and helping to elect politicians who make battling climate change a priority. I guess like that guy from Washington State who's running. He's 100% on climate change.
Okay.
We will be deeply involved in the elections around the country because climate change is now first and foremost a political problem. Which means, you have to get...
It's not a real problem.
It's a political problem, that's right. At least for the foreseeable future, winning the battle against climate change will depend less on scientific advancement and more on political activism. So they're not going to talk about how you're going to do it, you're just going to have the people that are going to say, we're going to do it.
Right.
We will defeat at the
We
voting
have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's important to start the conversation.
$500 million. Okay?
Well, like you said, what's he going to do? Buy a coal plant and shut it down?
Yeah, I guess, and
then what? You just
I'll
leave
tell
it
you.
fallow? Just let it sit there?
I guess I wish if he's gonna spend that kind of money, I wish he'd come down here and buy our biomass plant.
Yeah, we got something for you.
We got something to say. Yeah, you can and fire it up. We don't
Hell
care.
yeah!
We will defeat at the voting booth those who try to block action. Our message to elected officials will be simple: face reality on climate change or face the music on election day. And
That's it. Fusion.
yeah, well, of
Nuclear.
Well, yeah, we're seeing that. So, however, unfortunately, the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, swiftly kills the idea of a climate change debate.
Okay.
So they're going to have the debates,
Right.
sponsored by the DNC. They've got all their rules, but no climate change.
What, you can't mention that?
Can't, no.
What?
There will be as many as 12 Democratic presidential debates over the next year, but none of them will be devoted to climate change, for now at least.
Right.
And of course,
Well, they just mean it's not going to specifically be devoted to that issue.
right. Well, what they have done in the past
'cause it would
is
be a
they've had a
debacle.
topic basically.
Right.
They talk about the economy
Right.
or foreign relations or whatever it is, but climate change, no. And of course, Inslee, who's the guy from Washington State, he got a call and said no. And here's what they did. But Wednesday evening, Inslee announced that his campaign received a call from the DNC letting us know that they will not host a climate debate. What's more, says Inslee, told him that if he participated in another climate debate outside of the DNC, the candidate and current governor of Washington would not be invited to any of the highly anticipated televised debates.
So even if you participate in somebody else's debate, you get excluded.
Boom,
That's it. You're out.
you're out.
We don't want you talking about that stuff.
We don't want you. I mean, that's how serious we are about not talking about climate change. Is if you bring it up.
Seems weird. I mean, I accept that. I would have to agree with him from a strategy point of view. That is to say, if I were making the strategy for my candidate, I would say don't go out there and talk about that unless you're going to talk about the solution, which is nuclear.
Right.
But,
Right.
don't go.
Yeah. Just before I came over here, I read something. I'm going to get this on an aside, okay, just for a minute. Remember we talked about Kim Jong-un killing people?
Yeah.
And somebody said it was fake news.
You said it might be.
Might be, right. Today, there's another one. He had another one of his people thrown in a swimming pool infested with piranhas that he.
All right, now that sounds like fake news.
I know it does, but I just thought I'd mention it because I was reading it to say what's the source on this.
Yeah.
And the source was Bloomberg or somebody.
That's right. He covered one with honey and
No.
dipped
What he
him
did,
in an anthill.
apparently what they did is they cut him open a little bit so he'd bleed, and then he hit and in his
And this is
and then tossed him into this pool. And the question was, did he drown first, or was he chewed up in minutes, by the piranhas imported from Brazilian piranhas?
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up and see if that is fake news.
Yeah.
But that'd be, as you're leading, you're up there.
Well, Trump had his diplomats cemented into the base of Trump's new tower.
Oh yeah, right. That's right. Here's we're talking about not climate change so much as the water. A cold, bold plot to hijack an iceberg and tow it from Antarctica to South Africa could take place this year. An ice pirate. Don't ask why. Nicholas
Don't
Sloan.
ask me.
I don't know. That's in quotes.
I'm just reading the words.
I'm just reading here, folks. Nicholas Sloan wants to cart a 125 million ton berg across the sea, only to melt it down for drinking water. Apparently, he's a professional marine salvager. He's done some stuff like there was that Italian cruise ship that flipped.
Right.
He was the guy that put it back up right again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, and he recently oversaw the refloating of the capsized Italian cruise ship Costa Concordia. He now hopes to solve South Africa's water crisis by nabbing an iceberg from the South Pole. Severe drought in 2017 led Cape Town to nearly run out of water. And the city, which Sloan calls home, has still restrictions of 70 liters a day, which is what? I don't know, what is that, 20 gallons or something?
Yeah, something like that.
The entire mission is expected to cost upwards of $200 million. And I thought it was kind of interesting in a way when I saw this because they showed a picture of the berg. They found the berg. And it's huge. Now they have towed icebergs around previously, but one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is how slowly these things melt. Mm-hmm. And you're in the ocean, which is only slightly above the ocean water. Even in the South Atlantic, it's probably maybe gets up to 70 degrees or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But the point is that they're thick and they're really frozen. And 90% of it is underwater. They showed a picture of it, and they showed a picture of it, and they showed a picture of it, and claimed that 20% of it was out of water. No, and I'm sorry, 10% of the iceberg is out of water. But it's pretty great water. I mean, if you can do it. And what they said was, even with all this water, it would provide about 20% of the water needed for South Africa or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it.
But still, when you think about it, I don't know what it is, but it's like a couple of miles across or something.
Okay.
And so you're going to have to get, when you talk about tugboats or something, you're going to have to get some pretty, you towing that thing, I don't know.
Quite a ways, too.
Well, I think what they're planning on, I think they found a current that goes up that way.
Okay.
So they can get it, they certainly wouldn't go against the current. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, no.
So anyway, you lasso a couple of humpback whales. I don't know.
That's right, that's right.
So anyway,
where's Aquaman when you need him?
I thought that was interesting. Okay, well, I'm done.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. I may have a thing or two. I think I do. Let's see. Okay, you mentioned, let's see, you mentioned Trump. And so we have to talk about Trump's little win this week.
Oh.
With the Mexicans.
Yes.
That's right. So interesting that this seems to prove what we were hoping for, which is that Trump was just using the tariff as a strategy. That he doesn't actually like tariffs or think that they're good, because otherwise he would have gone through with it anyway. So he was obviously using it to put pressure on Mexico and got what he wanted.
They have apparently relocated, at least a couple of hundred federales or whatever down to the Guatemalan border.
They did something, and so he withdrew his threat. Now, I thought it was interesting, though, that the New York Times pitched this as a self-generated crisis. From their perspective, Trump didn't need to do anything, and the whole thing would have worked out exactly the same way anyway.
Really?
Yeah. And
I'm not sure about that.
I don't know either.
I realize that they say that coincidence is not causation or something, but but correlation is not causation.
Right.
And so, but it does seem
there was some causation.
I'm going to say.
It's interesting, but the Times also had a new article out this week.
Okay.
I think it's today, actually, attacking the alt-right and YouTube, basically.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's this giant article, and it's got a whole bunch of pictures of everybody, all the intellectual dark web people, Shapiro and Steven Crowder, everybody that's on the interweb that's been influential. Molyneux, it's like 40 people that they've even got Milton Friedman in the picture.
Oh, sorry, I did see that collage. The collage where I saw it was on Molyneux's.
Right.
He was the one that talked about it today.
Right. Molyneux debunked it pretty well.
Yeah.
But I just had to bring it up too, because to me it was so interesting that they would publish something like this, where the whole entire article is about one guy. It's about one young, like 26-year-old guy who, according to the article, falls into this horrible cult of YouTube by watching thousands of videos over and over again. Okay?
Oh, that's right. He'd watched over 2 years. He'd watched
4 years, 12,000 videos, which is 10 videos a day. Okay,
right.
So I don't know what the guy obviously doesn't have a job or anything.
He doesn't have a life.
No, and so he sits around but what's
so he'd been converted from conservative to liberal, or brainwashed or whatever.
Yeah, brainwashed by the whole thing. But what's interesting is that this is news to them. This is one guy. One guy. Now, the way they wrote the article, they made it sound like it was everywhere. In fact, the author even wrote, "I have listened to countless stories like this young man's." Okay, so from his perspective, there are infinity of these stories. Countless. That's infinity. And this young guy who was from the story account was young, healthy, virile, intelligent, educated, and then he just straight. It was like heroin. YouTube was like heroin to this guy.
Right.
Okay?
Well, you can see what it would be.
Well, yeah, but the point, the entire point of the story seems to be, if you get your news from YouTube, you're a fascist. You're a racist, misogynist, fascist pig, basically.
Yeah.
And so, because the New York Times is obviously the standard bearer,
All the news is fit to print.
All it is, but it's
the
so
news is
interesting
fit
that
to watch.
they base the whole story off one guy.
Yeah.
The whole thing is an anecdote.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be news?
Yeah.
As if, I mean, I gotta believe that journalists of old, 50 years ago, worked for the New York Times, have just got to be banging their hand. What the hell are you doing over there? You know? And the characterizations all throughout the story are just obviously anti-right. Everything that they say in there, there's not even an attempt to try to disguise it as even or balanced or anything. It's just evil. It's just,
well, it reminds me a little bit when you talk about the author of this piece having, you know, whatever
Kevin Roos.
Yeah, well, what it reminded me of years and years ago of the doyen in New York City who couldn't understand how Bush got elected. I don't know anybody in my circle who voted for him.
Right.
Well, oh yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
that's your circle. Yeah, it was just interesting how YouTube, I mean, how the New York Times painted YouTube as just absolutely a heroin cult. And
well,
they're afraid of it. It's like they're afraid that it's sucking them dry. You know, this looks like the death throes of a formerly powerful company. But go ahead.
Well, it is kind of interesting. Did the article mention how Crowder had been demonetized?
Yeah, on that one. I don't know if this article did, but it's been all over the web about how it was just a couple of videos that he got demonetized for.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't like all of his stuff or anything.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so, I mean, he's doing fine. He's fine. He's in a little spat with some guy or whatever. But
yeah.
Big deal. Amazon delivery drones are on the way.
This year?
Did you see the copter?
Yeah.
It looked like a 6-foot hexacopter.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like if it came out of the sky onto somebody, that it could do some damage. But it's interesting to me that the FAA gave them approval.
Really?
Yeah. Which we had previously reported, and we thought that FAA didn't have jurisdictions over drones. At one point, there was a ruling that came out of the federal courts that said, no, sorry, it's not a passenger plane. You don't get to deal with it. Their statute specifically says passenger planes. So they must have amended the statute to now include the FAA's having jurisdiction over drones.
Now of course there are some rules that have to do with heights and everything like that. I knew that already. If you have a commercial drone,
well, that's why
you have to have a permit.
Well, that's where all the rulings came from. Is when the drones first came out, the FAA came out and made a ruling and said, 200 feet, line of sight, all this kind of stuff. And they got challenged in the courts, who said, look, who the hell are you, FAA? You're aviation. That's for passengers. This is hobby stuff.
Yeah.
And so you don't have any regulation over that. And the court went with that. The court at first said, you're right, they don't have any jurisdiction over these people. But now apparently they do, because according to this article, the FAA has approved a grand total of 2 companies to do drone flying.
And they are?
Amazon and Alphabet. So there's your monopoly.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So if you're there's your regulation at work, and this is, you're presumed guilty, you're presumed harmful, you're presumed dangerous if you want to put a drone delivery service out there. Never mind the fact that a drone just delivered the first liver for a liver transplant.
Really?
Yeah, like yesterday or something.
Really?
Yeah.
From where to where?
I didn't read the article, but
well, that was one of the first things we talked about before was in Africa to deliver medical supplies when you couldn't get there.
Right.
But now a liver, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah.
Except now, everybody has to wait for approval. Everybody has to beg for approval from some central authority, and they apparently, they've got some incentive to keep the monopolies on out.
You would think though that UPS and DHL would want to be in there.
You would absolutely think. I bet you they have lawsuits in the works right now. I bet you their lawyers are right now in the back writing something that says we want in on this.
Yeah.
But the fact that they have to hire lawyers
to
get in on it, that's what I'm trying to point out here, is that I'll bet you that the barriers to entry on a drone delivery business is probably millions of dollars.
You think so?
Yeah.
I wonder about that. Of course, what'll be interesting to find out as these things become more ubiquitous. I can see the Domino's Pizza here.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, for them, I mean, you know, not to hire a driver,
right?
And to basically deliver your pizza and drop it on your back porch.
Dude, you load up the drone, you hit the button, and it goes.
And it goes.
And not only that, but it only goes to one location, so
right.
it's not doing a circuit. So you get delivery a lot faster,
right?
And you just make a little beehive so that they just come in and out and that kind of thing. But again, get in line for your license, your approval. You are deemed dangerous if you even think of that. You're not a free American. You can't just go out there and start serving people. You got to get permission from a bunch of people. I don't even know who you got to get permission from, but I guarantee you it's a bunch of people. And I guarantee you, since you don't know, you're hiring a lawyer to do that, which means it's thousands or tens of thousands of dollars just to find out the process. And then to complete the process, my guess is it's hundreds of thousands at this point, because otherwise there'd be more people doing it right now.
Yeah, maybe. I guess so, because there's a certain amount of liability involved. You know, if the thing crashes or whatever.
Well,
but the other thing is,
it's probably further regulations that require them to have some kind of
liability.
Exactly.
Right.
Some kind of insurance. Like that may be what's preventing them. But either way, it's not because they can't do it.
Right.
It's not just because we don't feel like delivering by drone. I guarantee you there's government agencies that are standing in the way of our pizza right now.
Well, not only that, I would guess that all the local agencies want their piece of the action. You know, if you want to do it, you're going to have to go down here and get a drone permit from the city or the county.
Sure, why not?
Or the state or whatever.
Right.
You know, and then you go, like on the gas tanks.
Right.
You know, in the gas filling stations, approved by the Secretary of Agriculture or whatever.
That's right.
Where's your
safe,
sticker?
This is safe for use here.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just, so we'll see. So interesting. A Texas teacher was fired for tweeting to the president to come get the illegals out of her school.
I saw that, yes. Yeah.
Like, this is supposed to be hate speech?
Was that what they claimed?
That's what this is all about. It's just all about hate.
Hokey smokes.
She tweeted, okay, the president of the United States, come get the illegals.
And how did
she didn't say come get the brown people out of, she didn't say, no, come get the illegal people out of the school.
And of course, according to that, she'd already appealed to apparently some authorities in the area.
Yeah. Well, she's a gadfly from their perspective.
Right.
She's a rabble rouser. She won't just go along and teach the illegals. I mean, she is. She's doing it. But
not anymore.
Well, yeah, not anymore. She was. But obviously she had an issue with that. Mm-hmm. But it's just remarkable that someone calling for law enforcement, okay, and then from the president, okay, and then
how'd they find out about it? Not that it really.
Well, it was a tweet, so somebody reported her. I'm sure.
Yeah, I guess.
And then of course it's a tweet. Like, it's not like a letter or. This is not an official request form or anything like that.
Not on the school letterhead.
Right, that's right. It doesn't. She didn't contact the local state attorney or anything. It's a tweet to the president, and they fired her. It's amazing, but
I didn't think you could fire teachers like that.
Well,
I mean, she must not have a very strong union down there.
Or they're against her.
Yeah.
You know, they don't like her at this point.
Yeah.
She's on the outs. But Powell, the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
Has a new inflation target.
Which is?
Symmetrical 2%.
Symmetrical.
That's right.
Okay, this is...
What does that mean to you?
Not much. I guess it's a bell-shaped curve over it or something like that.
Uh-huh. And where's the low part?
0?
Well,
no.
I mean, 2% is... So here's how it works out. Exactly. Here's how it works out. Inflation hasn't been 2% up to this point for a few years.
Yeah.
We would like it to be 2%, to have been 2% on average. So, we're going to have greater than 2% for a while to make the average over the past 2%.
God.
Symmetrical.
This guy's an economist?
Well, what's great is they don't say the target's 3% or anything like that. They say it's symmetrical 2%.
Okay.
So now we're going back to wherever they want to go back to in order to get their measurement of below 2%. But the point is, they're going to ratchet it above 2% in order to have an average of 2% going backwards.
You know, it is stunning to me with the level of ignorance of this guy.
Well, and look, that's it. What's ignorant about it? I mean,
Because inflation is theft.
I know, but he probably knows that. Look, he's on the side of, he's a monetarist. All these people are monetarists. They believe that the government can spend the money better. And so the way to do that, without having to raise taxes, is you print the money, you let the inflation happen, you spend the money the right way, and then the people eat it. And he's okay with that. Did a good job. That's what Bernanke and all those guys patted themselves on the back for. And so this is more of the same, basically. This is, they're taking your money, they're going to take it at a greater rate now. And Peter Schiff is all freaking out about the Fed right now.
Oh, of course.
He is the perpetual bear, of course, but he thinks this is it. He thinks this cliff over, Thelma and Louise, it's on right now. Toss out the parachute because the top is in and the bottom is on the way. And he thinks that once the Fed, I talked about this last week, we've talked about that the 2020 election, I believe, I think you're on board with this, will hinge on whether or not the economy is doing okay at that point.
Okay.
If it's good, Trump gets reelected. If it crashes, he doesn't. I think that if the Fed gets involved again and lowers interest rates, that there will be another rally similar to the green shoots rally of the Obama years. Schiff doesn't think that people will buy into it again. He thinks that they're going to abandon all hope if the Fed cuts interest rates. He thinks people are going to look around and say, you know what? There's nothing back in this dollar thing. We're out. And he thinks central banks are going to go on a gold buying spree, and it's going to be a devastation of the dollar. I don't see any replacement for the dollar. I don't see what you could go into that's any better than the dollar yet. I don't see a currency that's backed by gold or anything. There's not a central currency in circulation that is backed by anything.
Right.
So that's an interesting situation, which I think gives the dollar a little float. And I think until China or somebody announces Switzerland, the backing or
well, the problem with Switzerland is there's not enough of them there.
That's right. There's not enough.
That's the major. That's what. And they have panicked in the past already. They loosened up a little bit, you know, when they saw everybody was going, they're buying up their francs.
Right.
And,
but they could you could print smaller denominations.
Oh, I know.
I mean, there's ways you could do that without devaluing. And I think if somebody does that sometime this century, that they'll scoop the market. They'll corner the market on the
Well,
currency.
I know that there's another group of people that say as long as you're going to have something that's not backed, then you go to cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, and
because there is, in that case, there's actually a limited supply.
There's a limit.
Cap.
It's exactly.
And you know right now, so you could have, for instance, if you had, for instance, in circulation in the United States, capped the amount of dollars in circulation at a certain number, well, then you wouldn't have inflation.
Right.
Past that.
Right.
You know, but it's not backed by anything.
Right.
But you know that it's not going to depreciate in value.
Right.
So, but with the Bitcoin now is basically, or the whatever they are,
right,
the Ethereum or whatever, conceivably could satisfy that. And you've seen, of course, what is it, $8,000 now or something?
Yeah, it went up to 9.
Did it go up to 9? Okay.
So it's already up 150% or something on the year, and I think it's all over the place. But yeah, and people are doing that. I think that's one of the effects of what's happening at the Federal Reserve. But it's just interesting to see this particular action. You've still got Trump out there saying we got the best economy ever, and yet he wants the Fed to cut interest rates down below, what are they at, 2% now?
Yeah, something like that.
The housing market is sputtering, and they've just and the rates have come down from 5 to 4 in the last few months.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the rates have come down, and they're still dropping house prices. So there's some kind of an issue sort of brewing there.
Well, and of course, this is one of the things that happens. It's the market.
Right.
The market. Now, you may not be able to understand. One of the things I've always liked about Kramer and those people on after when the market closes, whether it's up or down, they always have a reason for it.
Sure,
Oh,
sure,
this
sure.
is the, I mean, you sit there and think, what?
Yeah,
you know, as I said many times, what I would like to do is to lock those guys in a
Right.
in the morning,
Right.
and then let them out and tell them the opposite happened, and they would have a reason for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So the way I look at it is the market's figuring this out, and if house prices are dropping and interest rates on house loans is dropping for some reason, I don't know, but it's
Somebody knows something.
Somebody, well, the market knows.
Right.
I mean, in total, because remember now, one of the things is that people don't realize about the market is all based on prices, and the simple fact is that the price, when you buy a can of peas off the shelf, the price that it ripples all the way down the market from the trucks to the pea farmer to the everything that's involved is all those prices are packed into this thing here, and that's all the information you know is how much is it,
Right.
and yet that information goes throughout the entire economy price.
And it includes all the actors.
Right.
Every actor.
All the actors, that's
And-
right.
and so that-
all the
it's an
regulations and
incredible
everything.
metric.
Even the government, sad to say, is part of the market, but they are unfortunately the ones with the guns,
Yeah.
and so they're not the voluntary part of the market. They're the coercive part.
Yeah. So we'll see. Well, we're in interesting economic times, I think, to say the least. So we'll see. The Federal Open Market Committee has their next hearing in June here.
Okay.
So we'll see if
Usually
they-
on a Wednesday sometime.
if they're actually going to cut rates this
Boy,
time.
I'll tell you, that would be. I mean, you know.
Like I said, Schiff thinks that's going to signal to people get out. I don't know. If they're, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to what people believe is happening. If enough people believe that the market's going to get saved, then they won't bail, and then it will. It's
Yeah,
a
they
self-fulfilling thing in some
They
ways.
used to have something I remember in the 90s they had something called the Greenspan put.
Right.
And you know he's not going to let it go. You know
That's right.
no matter what.
And that's what seems to be happening as far as Schiff's concerned. That's why the market rallied this week. You know, we're up 800 points or
oh
something.
right, yeah, because they're thinking
Right.
that
That they're going to cut. They're going to cut rates.
Yep.
And the people are expecting another bailout, another QE, another twist, something.
Yeah.
So
twist.
yeah, the twist.
What are they going to call it this time?
Well, the twist was the 30 to the 10 year.
Oh, I know.
You know, and of course the 10 has flashed the death cross or whatever.
Has it?
Yeah, with the 10-year note crossed paths with the 30-day note.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's the inversion thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
But I mean, it's right at the.
Yeah, at the intersection.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, I guess that's it for
Okay.
now. So.
Good deal.
Yep. So. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it. John, Gene, Bill, Kelly, other John, Anthony, Bobble. Hope you guys had a good time. We did. These tracks brought to you by Kevin MacLeod. He's in charge of all of our music, and we like that. He does a great job. So.
He lets us use it for free.
Yeah. So we will be back on Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Join us if you can. And
But now this is in about. You tell your friends that missed it that they can get it on. They get the audio version on Spotify.
Yep.
In an hour or two or whatever, and then.
SoundCloud, Libsyn, Luminary, all those are audio places. And then for video, we're on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Probably just those ones. Oh, and our own channel, JimmyDoaneShow.com. So, right. All right, I am Counselor Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doane Show. Thanks so much.